All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today on the supply chain story for one of the world's largest leading e-retailers. Of course, the topic of conversation is going to be on-time deliveries for 10 million plus customers. I want to welcome Tejas Vyas from Bigbasket. Tejas, do you want to come onto stage, say hello, and just a couple words for us as an introduction?
Hello, everyone. Tejas here from Bigbasket, and it's a pleasure to be here and look forward to a great our session talking about different complexities in the online grocery business.
Very good. Thank you, Tejas. Very much appreciate your joining us today. Great. So without further ado, I'd like to get in and get started. Just a brief agenda for us. I'll cover just a little bit about some of the industry research that we found. I recently attended the Grocery Shop Summit in Las Vegas. We had a lot of great conversations, a lot of good learnings. I'll go through just some brief slides on kind of like how we view the market, and then Tess and I will have some dialogue around the success from Bigbasket and really what they've been able to achieve, some of the pains that they've experienced in over the past few years in really driving adoption for online grocery. So one of the, I guess, key statements that that we learned through various presentations at the Grocery Shop Summit, as well as other conversations that we've had with other top online grocers, is that the total grocery store sales specific to the U.S. From what we've seen is roughly worth about $641 billion. That's a lot of opportunity. Roughly 5.5% of total grocery spending in the U.S. is online, right? And over the past year, online grocery shoppers have increased their weekly online spending from 28% to 46% of their total grocery spend, right? So online grocery as a whole, sales are expected to reach $100 billion in 2025. So let's think about that a little bit. If you take a look at this graph or chart on the right, if you will, you'll see that the attitudes for online grocery shopping are in this pivotal space right now, right? So you have customers that are considering, you have those that are interested in giving a test or a trial, towards online purchasing for their groceries. Then you have this, these early adopters or trusted, clientele that, have already tried it, they love it, they'll never go back, or they're at least very dedicated to do most of their, their grocery shopping online. And then you have these avoiders or those that have yet to try. Maybe they've heard stories, positive or negative. Maybe they, they're just resistant in some way, shape, or form, right? So the darker color on the left you'll see are those that have considered it, but maybe not yet tried it. The gray, which I'd say is probably the smaller category, are those ones that have engaged in a trial. Maybe we'll get them back, maybe we won't, depending upon whatever their experience might have been, right? And then we have these regulars, that have tried and have built the trust, with their online grocers so that they can be, ordering all their groceries online and benefiting from that convenience. I guess one of the key concepts or questions that we're trying to answer today is, how do we get those trialists to convert into more loyal customer base, and how do we get those avoiders to feel a little bit more confident or trust some of the brands more and more, so that they can at least be willing to consider or try online grocery shopping. So just some things to think about as we run through our conversation today. Let's talk a little bit about the obstacles that we'll see from the online grocery segment here. I'm going to start in the bottom left corner here. I think one of the key things and key takeaways that you'll want to take from our conversation today is, how do we build trust with the local, with these shoppers that want to come online? The local retailers have already built that trust over years and years and years, and the customers know where their food is in the aisles at that store. They might know the butcher at the deli counter. Like whatever that experience that has been created for them, that's maybe the reason that they're most resistant to shop online. So that trust is something that we need to capture in the online environment as well, and make sure that that customer can receive the best experience. There's also an obstacle to the perception of, hey, can I get fresh produce? What about these perishable goods that that I typically go and I pick up at the counter, and I can feel them. I know that this is the one I want, right? Like, can I get that same type of experience from an online grocer? And will that arrive at my doorstep the same that I would have picked it out in the store, right? In addition, think about that example, like myself. I'm a consumer, right? And if I am planning my my dinner this evening, can I, instead of jumping in my car and running to the store, can I get an online grocer to deliver to me in the same somewhat time frame so that I can cook dinner tonight? So what about these instant purchases right on the fly, right at the time that I need my groceries most? Can the online grocer deliver to me in that time window, to where I can still achieve dinner tonight? Big question or obstacle to overcome. Of course, there's price sensitivity. There's some cost involved in possible delivery if you set up for that model. There's some concern around, like, hey, am I gonna save a couple bucks online because prices might be competitive, or am I going to spend gas to go to the store, or is there a delivery charge? There's some sensitivity there, and I guess some question or concern from those shoppers that are thinking about or considering or trying online grocery. Customers want to see and touch these products. I've already kind of touched on that briefly. But they also want a really easy shopping experience. I mentioned before, like, when somebody goes to a grocery store, brick and mortar, they're able to know or gain familiarity with, like, where those products are in their store, and that way they know what to get as they're kind of canvassing the aisles. Can you provide that same type of experience online in your cart activity? Can you segment by, say, big red tomatoes to small green tomatoes? It's not just a tomato. There's a lot of variety in there. So can you give them that same type of experience online as they have experience inside of their local stores? Now, of course, as we think about the customer experience, that's what we want to emphasize, and then that's most important. But how does an online grocer actually provide solutions to a lot of these challenges that you're facing? Well, the supply chain is a big component of that. So as we think about the supply chain, there's some real, I guess, key challenges that we're facing. Now, I won't read these verbatim, but if you think about one of the largest challenges, it's that perishable goods category, right? So how do you deal with something like ice cream? And getting ice cream to or from a store or warehouse or what have you to a consumer before the ice cream melts? That's a big question. And then, of course, what happens when somebody just needs something very simple, like, I need a bushel of potatoes, or I need a single tomato to complete my dinner for tonight, right? That could be a very inefficient order for an online grocer to serve a single tomato to somebody's doorstep, right? So big question about efficiency and how that operates within the supply chain as well. And then, of course, the customers are becoming more and more demanding of reasons that they will try or commit to online grocery, right? So can they get their product to their doorstep within a specific window of time? How to versus taking that car to the store to to have that in-person experience. There's a lot of complexity that comes with regional deployment or distribution or delivery to specific doorsteps. And then, of course, perishability for fresh produce, maybe not just refrigeration unit produce, but also that basil or that parsley or something like that. That's fresh, right? Like, you want to make sure you build that trust with them. And then, of course, pricing comes into play as well, as we kind of touched on a moment ago. So some of the reasons that someone would transition from offline to online, of course, require transitioning from an existing system to a technology. So as we discuss some of those challenges, creating a good experience through the ordering process, making sure that you communicate and provide availability for specific time windows, like all of these reasons that somebody is concerned about, making an online grocery purchase. You want to make that really easy for them, utilizing technology to, to service that, that concern. And then, of course, making sure that, once that order is placed, you can get it from, from your store, from your warehouse, directly to the consumer in the time that they've selected, and making sure that there's no hiccups there and that there's full transparency along that path. And then, of course, ensuring the satisfaction once it does get to their doorstep. Do they have the same experience as they would, when they're walking through the aisles of the grocery store and somebody's smiling at them, asking them if, if they're having a good experience, if they were able to find everything that they needed. Like those types of things can really convert a happy customer to a much more loyal customer long term. There's a lot of opportunity in the space, as we all know, or most of us have seen. Amazon was our instigator here with the acquisition of Whole Foods little ways back. There's others that have followed suit, like Walmart with the recent acquisition of Flipkart. And if we think about it, there's also some early adopters in the delivery space. For Ocado and Alibaba, they in China and of course the United Kingdom. If you think about the way that they operate, kind of a hub and spoke, they serve their own inventory, from the manufacturer out in that e-commerce model or e-grocery model. If you think about Instacart specific to the U.S., Instacart is somewhat aggregating from an abundance of groceries, right? So there's a lot of options for even the small grocer to play online, and there's of course complexities that you'll have to consider as like whether you want to, like how are you going to become profitable? Like these are some of the topics that that you're probably raising while you're listening to a webinar like this. There's also options like Instacart of playing in that space. I guess one of the big questions is do I play in this pool of of aggregate other grocers and use something like an Instacart, or do I invest in my own captive fleet, or invest in couriers to get my product from point A to point B. There's a lot of options out there for you to explore. We'll focus on Locus today and how we provide insights into that supply chain process. And we'll also, of course, talk with Tejas here about BigBasket and how they've chosen and what path they've chosen in this process as well. So to quickly introduce BigBasket, BigBasket has a very successful growth story here over the course of the past 7 years. They've grown from 1 to about 10 million customers in under 7 years. They've expanded into over 25 cities across India, and they have more than 15,000 products available in their portfolio to their consumers. And I'd say one of the greatest testaments to their success is the trust that they've built with their clientele. So Tejas, I'd like to welcome you again into the webinar, and maybe you'd like to talk to us a little bit about how you see the market today, and some of the things that BigBasket is doing to achieve that success.
Thank you, Sean. Pleasure to be here again. Grocery, huge market. It's my bread and butter, and that's, I intend the pun there. So yeah, that's my daily bread and butter, and very fascinating and yet extremely complex business. And Sean rightly pointed out some of the complexities there. So on the screen, you can see the number 650 billion. Well, this number is, you're just talking of the US market, and at less than 6% online penetration. If I look at it globally, it's a it's over, if I add up at a global level, you're talking of almost $1.5 trillion billion worth of space, and less than 1% is penetrated online. China is a lot more penetrated by Alibaba today. In India, BigBasket is the market leader. and it's been 7 long years, and a lot of startups have bitten the dust in the process. An extremely complex business, not as great margins, and in fact, if you look at it, there are two business models here. One could be an asset light versus an asset heavy. And when you talk about an asset heavy model, you're talking of investing into huge warehouses. So, I mean, the complexity just shoots up, right? When you pick different business models here. Yeah.
Absolutely, I would agree. Steas, BigBasket's seen a lot of success and is the leader in the Indian market. How have you gone about earning your customer trust?
Well, there are two primary reasons, and you mentioned a lot about trust in your earlier discussion. So trust primarily would come from typically delivering on time, all the time, extremely high, fresh quality produce, right? That's the answer to this whole conundrum when we talk about online groceries. And for a customer, nothing else matters. What you commit, you deliver it on time with the best quality, so that you eliminate this whole need of touch and feel. There's the second key element that would also come into the fray here is the price sensitivity. A lot of people, and probably this falls a lot under the Indian market. India is an extremely high, very price sensitive market. So a lot of the customers, typically there's a friction in getting onboarded online, because typically people think, buying online is a lot more costly endeavor, right? So when you crack this puzzle, when you given a top-notch delivery experience coupled with top-notch produce, and then you add to that a great pricing value proposition, that's clearly the way to gain your customers' trust.
Absolutely, I would agree. Very good. Can you help us understand a little bit more about how you create customer happiness and deliver on that product quality?
We typically, I'll talk about customer happiness. So typically, most of you probably would be aware of an NPS score. An NPS score typically gauges whether you would recommend this service to someone that you trust, right? And that's a nice indicator of how well you're doing. So we've been constantly tracking that month on month, and it's something that we build this across the organization, right from the top until the bottom. A delivery boy essentially has to deliver on a top-notch customer experience, so that your typical customer can recommend it to his friends and family. And that is clearly a way to what we call you have a GDP, so you have a happiness score here, and we typically gauge that with NPS, right? And and then going down further into product quality, this needs a supply chain wherein you can deliver the fresh produce within, say, a day and a half of harvesting. So in fact, the typical tomato that a customer receives on BigBasket is not more than a day and a half away from the time it has been harvested by a farmer. We have reached those levels of efficiency, and this is at the end of virtuous cycle. In the earlier days, we saw that a lot of customers would reject our fresh produce because of the quality, and we kept pushing this hard. We reduced the time between harvesting and delivery, and at this stage we are talking of a day and a half, and we don't stop here. It's a process to keep trying to get it within a day, within 6 hours, on and so forth. So focus on product quality is paramount here. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I think product quality and customer happiness is going to come from all of those challenges that we talked a little bit about earlier. So one of those challenges was the perishable category, right? So how do you handle that today? Of course, there's some things that between Locus and BigBasket partnership we're able to support with, but how do you think about perishable food category?
Let me give you two quick examples. If I were to deliver, say, parsley or basil to you, right? I need to go back to my source, and I just mentioned this a minute ago. The farmer is about almost 250 kilometers away, around 120 miles away. So within a day and a half, I need to get that, and I need to stock it. So, and I need to commit to it, that item which has been harvested. Also, I have a problem that I can't I can't under deliver it, nor I can buy so much in my inventory that I have to throw off the rest of the parsley, right? So that's just one part of the fresh produce. Let me give you another example of an ice cream. You were mentioning this before. How do I ensure that I deliver this ice cream and it shouldn't melt? Now, typically our slot is probably 2 hours on Bigbasket, and you're probably half an hour away, or an hour away from what we call the cutoff, until which a customer could order. So within this an hour to maximum of 3 hours, how can I deliver my ice cream in a packaged state, in whatever delivery mechanism I choose, to go unmelted, right? It cannot just reach to a customer in a completely liquid form. We faced these complexities in the earlier days. So we went deeper, we went into the physics of it, we got in a few IoT devices, we gauged that with different delivery mechanisms, and today we have something which we are able to commit to be able to deliver in almost an unmelted manner within 3 hours. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. And when I was at the grocery shop summit a couple of weeks back, I noticed that there's a lot of options out there for refrigerated goods, from crates to ice packs to refrigerated trucks. I mean, the options are endless out there. So it's, I guess that ice pack solution has worked for you to get there within the time windows. That's great. Again, focusing on that customer experience and the trust that you're building with them to get that product to their doorstep in the way that they want it. So on the topic of getting it to their doorstep, how do you ensure that that product gets to them in the time that they've asked for it?
Again, complex problem, and without technology, it would have been hard. So say, let us go back 3 years ago, and you had these slots, and you needed a lot of manual intervention to essentially sequence. And after the cutoff, you essentially had this huge map in front of you, which is your serviceable area, and you had to pick and choose your orders and sequence them in a manner so that you could deliver it in probably the most efficient manner. Now, a lot of manual intervention here, definitely inefficient, a lot of delays in the whole process. So a huge challenge for us, and ultimately we were able to crack it through technology. We were able to slot this in better, cluster it better, and give a predictability on when a vehicle has to leave your typical staging location or a hub, and when should it reach back, because it's also about the shift wherein a delivery boy, so we control our entire operation. So you can't let someone return back, say, 3 hours after the slot, because that's the end of a shift. So there's this whole human component here. You need to be able to deliver this so efficiently so you can even get back on time. Yeah, so a very complex problem, and optimal routing definitely is a key part of this. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, we worked together for quite some time. I understand that you have considerations of fleet as well, right? Like you have everything from motorcycles to trucks to to vans. Like there's so many options, to get large orders versus small orders direct to the door. So I can appreciate how complex that is, and having the right systems in place to get that product there is paramount. So how do you avoid blind spots? I mean, there's a lot of real world constraints that that could affect that path. How do you handle that today?
Pre-technology, typically someone from the local, I would call it staging area, or what you call the hub, the manager would typically call up every delivery boy. Are you going to be on time? Are you going to be on time? And this would happen every hour, trying to get a time check, right? And if I'm at a customer's location and my manager is calling me, are you going to be on time? It gets even more trickier, right? So, through technology, ease this whole process. We are able to predict this a lot better. We are able to use the GPS systems on the phone. get a sense of where you are in your whole sequencing, and ultimately avoid any kind of delays. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, having technology and automation can be extremely helpful in that process, I can imagine. So speaking of, I mean, of course, we're Locus and you're Bigbasket, and we've had a great partnership. You've leveraged some of our technology to execute on the ground for these types of delivery systems. So can you talk to us a little bit about how you ensure that those facility managers are executing on on-time deliveries via optimization of the routes that are being taken?
Yeah, so let's talk about the technology component, Sean. Now, typically, let me give you a nice example. It's New York. It's 6 p.m. in the evening or 7 p.m. in the evening, peak traffic Manhattan, and I would say a lot more about Mumbai and Delhi. Is just packed with vehicles on the road, right? So here's the complexity which typically a human can't solve for it today. With technology, I can get a sense of between 6 to 8 p.m. what would be my traffic pattern, and rather than carrying maybe 10 orders per van, which is typically efficient for me, why I should probably carry 8 orders, right? And let's take a 2 to 4 p.m. slot in the afternoon, wherein I can efficiently deliver even 13, 14 orders, and typically you can just zoom past your traffic signals, right? So these are things which it's typically very hard, and we've done this over and over again. We've tested this. It's very hard to look at a cluster of orders and determine how many should I put it within a particular vehicle. Also, there's an element of volume of the crates. Also, how many crates are you carrying for a particular order? Typically, we have this cycle at the earlier part of the one when people are generally ordering a lot more because they're planning for their monthly cycle, right? Vis-a-vis sometime during the end of the month when typically the orders are a lot less, right? So technology helps solve that problem. We are able to take clusters of nearby locations, have a good sense of what is the right sequencing on each of these drop points or orders, as we say. And it also gives a good predictability of when you need to leave your facility and return back. Without that visibility, it becomes incredibly hard. Another key point to also add in here is the ability to predict any kind of a delays which could happen because you're probably delayed at, say, sequence number 3, which could potentially affect your sequence number 8 drop point, right? So it's the ability to forecast such problems in your entire delivery mechanism.
Absolutely. Yeah, of course. I mean, as Lucas, we have a lot of conversations with a lot of both e-grocers as well as other verticals, if you will. And one of the biggest challenges that we hear is being able to predict any unforeseen challenges that could affect that customer experience. Huge area of attention today. So kind of moving forward and directly on that topic. Real-time estimated times of arrival for the consumer. How do you account like when something does go awry? What does that look like for Bigbasket? If you know that the 8th delivery in your route potentially has concern for delay, how do you handle that?
Right. So great point here. I mean, this is probably the most critical part. In our surveys with our customers, as we cracked each and every piece of the puzzle, be it ice creams or fruits and vegetables, a typical thing what our customers came back is, hey, you give me a 2-hour slot, but say I'm going to be home, say between 6 to 8 p.m. I'm just going to be home at 6:30. So is there a possibility that I can get the ability to see what exact, say, 10-minute range I would be able to see, right? So technology enables us to do that. With the right sequencing and the right routing, I'm able to tell my customer, hey, your van is on the way. But I will be able to deliver your order, say, at 6:25 p.m. or between 6:20, 6:30 p.m. And that is extremely powerful. And coming back to the question that you asked, say I'm delayed at sequence number 3, and the last order in this entire route or plan is, say, the poor guy is at sequence number 8. Well, he's supposed to get this at 7:50, 7:55. And if it goes beyond 8, 8:10, I really need to go back to him with the right messaging. I need to be able to trigger messages, be it an automated be it an automated phone call, have an ability to tell him, hey, we are so sorry, we are just slightly delayed, we are probably delayed by about 17 minutes, right? So
Sure.
that becomes extremely crucial in your ability to still deliver it as best as possible, because in the end, customers understand. The moment we launch this ability to forewarn our customers, we saw a huge number of customers coming back and saying, hey, that's great, what you've been doing. I mean, I'm okay if you at least let me know that there's a problem there. I understand that.
Yeah, it's a key component of building customer trust, right? I mean, when you're looking at that process throughout, I mean, what if there was an accident on the highway that prevents, and traffic was just unexpected, and that you're going to miss that window by 10 minutes. I think the simple act of calling that customer and saying, hey, look, this is what happened, and we're still dedicated to get this to you as fast as possible, but we wanted to let you know that this is the situation. It does build trust. I mean, if somebody were to call me on my order for that, I think I'd still have a very positive experience. Now, I mean, there's many steps within the process that I think technology helps account for, right? From ordering to packing to loading to trucking and actually getting that specifically to the customer doorstep. So how are you viewing this Hawkeye view for on-ground operations using technology today?
So it's extremely critical to monitor this. At the end, whatever processes we do, whatever technology solutions we build in, if you don't have a proper monitoring mechanism on what's happening on ground, you lose track and everything goes haywire. It's the same mechanism I just mentioned, calling every half an hour, hey, are you going to be on track? Are you going to be on track? Because that's a way to gauge whether you're continuing to build on customers' trust. So what essentially comes out is you need pretty much a dashboard. You need a dashboarding view of, hey, what's happening on the ground? How many orders am I going to be delayed? How many orders am I delivering on time? And keep tracking these metrics. And so that there is a proactive handling at any point. If I find a particular facility is suddenly dropped down at metrics, it started raining. Can someone from my customer service team proactively call up all these customers and say, hey, we are so sorry. Despite the messaging that we have sent, it is important to add this human touch and tell your customer, hey, we are so sorry today. We had this huge problem, and we'll continue to still deliver it as best as possible as we could. So without monitoring, nothing just works, right? So that's extremely critical to any technology solution.
Yeah. So specific to monitoring, and we're running short on time. I want to get to some questions here, but when we think about monitoring, there's both that real-time element, and then there's also that analytics element, right? So learning from the data over time. When you think about those real-world constraints that could create challenges, in the delivery routes, what kind of KPIs are you looking at, as a whole, say month over month, year over year, that are helping you become more and more successful?
Well, there's a real-time monitoring, and then you need this clear insights that should come out of all that has happened over the last week, the last month, or even a day for that matter. What essentially makes sense is get valuable insights from all the data, set specific metrics into the whole solutioning, and come back and find out problem areas. There's constant learning in anything that we do. As someone who heads product, it just never stops. Nothing ever stops. You need to keep learning. You need to get find the pain points and keep adapting and keep fixing each of those pain points. Yeah. So it's very important that whatever solution you have in place, you get extremely valuable insights, and these are metrics that have to be tracked on pretty much an ongoing basis. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, some of the key metrics that are reported of in our platform and asked of us quite frequently, utilization of truck capacity, or time savings in the route, mileage savings or kilometer savings, in the route, week over week, month over month. These are some of the ways that you can continue to push that envelope of efficiency. One of the key things that we talked about in a challenge early in today's conversation is profitability for the e-grocery channel, right? Many are trying to figure this out, both in the US, in India, and internationally, right? Profitability is the key. If we can break into profitability for this by leveraging some of these metrics to be more efficient, I think that's where you're going to start to see the gains. So some of the impacts that you've been able to experience, you want to take us through just a couple of these really quick before we wrap?
Yeah, so I would go down right to the center. Technology has helped us, maintain 99.8% on-time delivery, and this I'm just so that this number is understood. There are natural calamities that could come into the fray, so I'm not accounting for those. I mean, a big hurricane or a huge cloud burst, right? But on a very normal, on a regular cadence basis, we are able to maintain this with extremely high predictability. A lot of this, another key metric which Sean just mentioned is the vehicle space utilization. I can't deliver my orders with just say 2 orders, and it's just this business just breaks down with the margins that a typical grocery business is probably one of the low margin businesses compared to what you have compared to the apparel category or a mobile phone category, right? So you need to try to batch in as many orders as possible into your vehicle. And the key metric here, looking at both space, both volume and the number of transactions or order, extremely important. You need to try to keep increasing that, find ways to do that, right? This needs a lot of intervention at every point, a lot of small fixes, small low-hanging fruit. It's an evolving process. It just doesn't end. Yeah. So this is the impact that we have created at BigBasket. A lot of deeper integrations through and through to get us to this 99.8% SLA at the units. Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so very much. Really appreciate your insights and hearing about the success that BigBasket has had. Some of the key takeaways that we hope everybody will learn from today's presentation is that there's a lot of opportunity in this grocery segment, and a lot of players are going to come and go. And I think the ones that stay and that stick around, that do it the right way and focus on that customer trust and that deliverability on the promises that are made through that ordering system, those are the ones that are going to stick around. So, what are the necessities of switching from an offline to an online business model? Well, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. There's a lot of players in the space, and earlier when we talked about the growth of this industry, there's some pretty high growth expectancy for now all the way up and through 2025, right? 100 million type users within 2025. It's not too far away. Building a supply chain that that's going to help you get that product to the customer in the most efficient and profitable way, and how automation of process can help your business not only today to get it off the ground, but also at scale and into the future to kind of future-proof your operations there. And then of course, ultimately and first and foremost, building trust with your customers. If they trust you, they'll continue to buy from you, and they'll continue to buy from you over time and be that loyal customer that you expect of them. So I do want to spend just the 5 minutes that we have left on answering some questions. I noticed that there's been some questions popping up in the in the queue here. Let me start at some of the first questions that we had. So Tejas, it looks like this is directed to you. How does BigBasket deal with the vehicle allocation and optimization while dealing with such large-scale volume?
All right. The key solutioning to this is break it down, break your serviceable areas into more manageable clusters. There's no point taking up say a 15-kilometer radius when your scale essentially expects you to, your demand essentially expects you to go deeper into the customer's area. So as we've noticed in our typical cities where we operate, we started off at a 25-kilometer radius. Then today we are close to around 7-kilometer radius, and I know in a year or two we'll be probably within 3-kilometer radius. Within that, focus on building these dense cluster of customers. Look at your hotspots, and within these clusters, find a way to get the maximum vehicle utilization, both in terms of volume and in terms of the transactions that could go to. go through. That's the only way you could be profitable.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you. Let's see. How do you go, Tejas? Again, you're popular today. How do you go through the change management process of ensuring the ground team believes and adheres to the output given by software like Locus?
A very, very tough question, and something that we witnessed this initially. There was a lot of friction coming out from the ground fleet, typically using technologies, because every facility thinks they can do this better than anyone. It needed a lot of conviction. It needed a lot of maybe a bit of a steamroll and bit of an ability to convince them that, hey, why don't you try this route for today and come back and tell me if this eases your problem. All you have to do is press these buttons, at the right places. Now, bringing in some structure into the process definitely is one thing you could do. So what we've done is kind of try to create a sense of a workflow in terms of what sequencing you need to follow, what are the next steps at every screen level on your delivery app experience, right? You need to show them the route. You need to take them to the route, right? All this takes a while. I completely agree with the question here that this is not as easy as it looks, but you need to keep drilling this down that this is the only way. That's the only way to get this done.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I can throw in an additional comment there. I can attest that, at Locus, one of the key things that we focus on very early in a relationship, like we did with BigBasket, was providing that that initial support right out of the gate, and making sure that that the adoption is first and foremost. So that way these efficiencies can be realized both in the short term and the long term. There's a second question here that talks a little bit about it's the same topic, right? Adoption of tracking within the delivery trucks via application or via device in the truck that's tracking, like drivers' resistance to to those types of things. I'd say that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tejas, but it's that same mentality, right? You just have to say this is the way, and we have to have more transparency here, and we have to understand where we can become more more efficient, therefore achieve profitability. Would you agree?
Yeah, so good point you raised here is that typically a delivery boy, since we control our entire fleet, typically adoption of technology and giving an optimal customer experience determines a CE's delivery boy's salary, I would say. As if more and more customers decide to give a great rating to a delivery boy, he gets more money. It's as simple as that. So a typical BigBasket delivery would have your person, this is your tomato. Does it look good? It goes as extreme as that. That is providing trust and customer commitment right at the doorstep level.
Yeah, absolutely. I like this question. It might be a little bit of a poke. Let's see here. Tejas, how do hyperlocal delivery players affect BigBasket customer retention, which is niche in the grocery business?
Right. So when you mention hyperlocal, I'm assuming, as this question points out, this is typically more of your pick and drop models, right? So what it means is pick this item from the nearby grocery store and deliver it, right? So definitely this is the value proposition that such models could give us an instantaneous delivery. When I say your delivery is between 6 to 8 p.m. and you are probably at around 5 p.m. And a hyperlocal delivery probably is promising you within 30-45 minutes, right? Because it's a pick and drop model. Now, typically there is a value for a customer to pick up such items and deliver it. But as experience proves for most of the players who have tried this and have bitten the dust, right? You cannot maintain that same level of customer retention because it becomes incredibly hard to deliver on the commitment that a customer expects. I ask for a bushel of potatoes, I better deliver it. And by the time I go to my nearby grocery store to pick that up, there isn't any left in stock, right? Incredibly hard. So the whole point here is the more you control your entire supply chain, and add these superlative pieces at every point to communicate to your customer in terms of the SLA, the better it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very good. Well, thank you so very much, Tejas. I really appreciate it. There's definitely more questions, and I apologize. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. We had allocated, 45 minutes for today's session. So, we're going to wrap. But the questions that have been asked, we will take offline and turn back responses to you, so that we can make sure that we get your answer, your questions answered, I should say. So. We've had some great content shared today. Tejas, again, thank you. We really value your partnership, and we look forward to your future learnings and your future growth. And of course, from side of Locus, for those that are in attendance today, we greatly appreciate your interest in the topic today. We've got some great experience here. We'd love to talk to you and answer any specific questions related to your business goals and your business needs. So thank you again, Tejas. Any final words?
Thank you, Sean, for doing this, and it's great to have to talk about this, and appreciate the questions here. I'm just going through some of these, and appreciate all of you attending this. Happy to answer some of these in a structured manner, as Sean pointed out.
All right. Very good. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Tejas. Really appreciate it, and we will look forward to speak with all of you in the near future. Thanks again, and enjoy the rest of your day.